like very much more like romance kind of language, and then like the chiseled abs, like sweat glistened.
Okay, glistening always finds a way. What's good? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Newest Olympian. My name is Mike Schubert. I'm the titular Newest Olympian. I'm a 33-year-old man who never read the Percy Jackson books as a kid. I read them as an adult because I was on a quest to determine if society had been sleeping on the series. I said yes, and now I'm seeing if society has also been sleeping on the Heroes of Olympus series. And I am joined today by a very special guest, someone who you've heard on this podcast many a time before, and I'm glad to have them back. You may have also seen their wonderful bookish content or now their game streaming content. It's Goel Rochester, aka Fictional Fates. Joel, how's it going?
Hello, I'm doing very well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me on the podcast again. I'm so excited to talk about everything Son of Neptune today.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think the last time we had you on was that when we had the reveal of Jason's last name being Grace, and by Grace I mean Derulo.
Yes.
Okay.
And fell down the stairs and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, of course. Yes. Oh, man. So that was very fun. These chapters are very fun. Mm-hmm. Things are getting intense. We're getting towards the end of this book, which it's ramping up. The big fight is on.
Oh, yeah.
We're on the doorstep of the final fight. So let's get into it. But really quickly before we do, we've got a new guest question that you've not answered yet. So if you had a different riptide, like you have an inanimate object that turns into another inanimate object, doesn't have to be a sword because maybe swords aren't as useful in your daily life. What would your different riptide be?
See, I feel like this is a use case not for me specifically because I can't drive, but I feel like it would be good for like everyone if it's like a ring that you can just like throw out and then it turns into like a car.
Ooh, man, that would be good. And I would support legislation where everyone had one of these because then we wouldn't need parking spaces.
Exactly.
And more restaurants could have outdoor seating and there could be more walkable streets. Yeah, ring that turns into a car is really good.
And it would have to be an electric car as well because we're all about like saving the planet.
Except for that one brand.
Oh, except for one
that
brand.
We
won't name. But that one brand, no.
It's
It'll
so
be available
funny.
in every other brand, but that one.
The Nissan Leaf, the Chevy Volt, though everything else. It's so funny when I see a Cybertruck, I'm like, this is a terrible person. This is a bad person. But when I see the older Teslas, like the original models, I have this fun, like, I like to create a thing in my mind of like, I wonder if this person bought this car in like 2016 when it was fine. And it was honestly like a cool thing. It was like, look at you saving the world. Oh, that guy who does the Tesla company's okay. And then now it's just like,
I've been reading like, what was it? I think it was like a Reddit post somewhere that like people were buying like decals of other brands to cover the back of their cars with. And I'm like, yeah,
people are looking up like how to remove the Tesla logo.
Yeah.
And then there was someone I saw who like posted a bumper sticker on their Cybertruck that said, I bought this before Elon started being weird or whatever. And then someone made a community note, like from Twitter, and stickered it onto the car underneath, like taped it on underneath, that said he only started making the Cybertruck after being weird, which is super true. Like that's the complete line of demarcation. Yeah. Like if you've got I think it's the model, the like more affordable one. I want to say it's called the Model 3. I might be wrong. I'm glad I don't know a lot about Tesla. I feel really good about my character. But like, I think the Model 3 is the one that came out like later. Like that's an on the fence one. If you have one of the older ones, like the originals, it's like, okay, there's a higher chance you're a good person. I'm not going to immediately judge you. But Cybertruck, like no way. And near my neighborhood, there's people who have Cybertruck in like different colors, which like more than just the silver. Like there's a black one and a blue. Yeah, I don't know if, like, again, I don't know a lot about this company and I feel great about it. I don't know if you can get it in other colors or if these people are like getting custom paint jobs, but there's a black one in my neighborhood and there's a navy blue one in my neighborhood. And I just don't, I don't know. It's bad. Anyway, we're obviously here to talk about Percy Jackson. So we're going to talk about Son of Neptune. We're going to be covering chapters 43 through 45 of book 2. Chapter 43 is called Hazel. So obviously Hazel's going to be the narrator. And also obviously we're going to retitle it. Now where we last left our heroes, they got on Arion to head to Hubbard Glacier. Seems like an ideal means of transportation if you don't mind horse-related turbulence. So we pick it up and the beginning quote is, Riding Arion, Hazel felt powerful, unstoppable, absolutely in control, a perfect combination of horse and human, and she's fully achieved peak horse girl. She has arrived at peak horse girl. She has done it.
Other horse girls are so jealous.
They're so jealous. They're so jealous. And then the next line, narrator Hazel wonders if this is what it feels like to be a centaur. And that is true literal horse girl.
Yeah.
If she, like, we thought we had her goal. Her goal was ride Arion. Turns out her actual goal is become a centaur. Like, that is where she really wants to be. The epitome of horse girl.
Oh, yeah.
So these boat captains that she was talking to previously told her that it would be a pretty arduous 300 nautical mile journey to Hubbard Glacier. Do you have any idea what a nautical mile means? I have no idea what the difference between a nautical mile and...
No idea. I feel like...
Let's Google it.
Yeah.
A nautical mile is used for marine and air navigation and is slightly longer than a land mile, with 1 nautical mile equaling 1.1508 land miles, or approximately 6,076 feet, while a land mile is 5,280 feet.
Interesting.
Now, that was the Google AI slop thing. This one is from the NOAA website, the subheading on Google, where they actually pull from a website and they just copy paste. Nautical miles are used to measure the distance traveled through the water. A nautical mile is slightly longer than a mile on land, equaling 1.1508 land measured, or statute miles.
Ew.
The nautical mile is based on Earth's longitude and latitude coordinates, with 1 nautical mile equaling 1 minute of latitude. Cool.
Interesting.
We're learning about water stuff in the Son of Neptune chapters. Even though this is supposed to be a long journey and a tricky one, Arion has absolutely no problem with it. He is moving across the water at the speed of sound, and he's producing heat because he's traveling so quickly, which keeps Hazel warm, which is good because they're in Alaska and they're going to a big glacier.
It's going to be cold.
Exactly. She's also feeling brave enough to just charge into battle, riding on Arion. So she's feeling great. Things are good. On the flip side, Frank and Percy not having the best time. They're struggling to stay on the horse. Frank's face is jittering like, it's just not a good situation for the other 2 dudes riding on this horse.
But I feel like it makes most sense because like Hazel is like that horse girl. She's like, oh, this is natural to me. This is fine. And then Percy and Frank are just like, can this be over now, please? Like, I didn't pay enough for the business class seats. I can't do this.
That's true. Those plebs are stuck in economy, and Hazel's up in Arion One. Yeah, she's killing it. Have you ever ridden a horse? Do you have any horse riding experience?
I haven't. I think I remember like riding a pony like when I was younger, but that's like the most that I ever got of riding a horse. I would love to ride a horse at some point in my life, like go for like a horse riding lesson, purely because it'd be good for like research so I can get accurate horse riding things in for a
which
book,
you need.
which I need. But no, I know like a few of my friends have ridden horses in their lives, and it always looks so like majestic and like fun, but then also at the same time I feel like it goes so chaotic so quickly.
Yeah. I've said it on the podcast a couple times, but I've only ridden on a horse once, and it was like at a casual walking pace, and even that was stressful. So it was on a beach, so I was worried about like falling in the water and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm one and done with my horse riding. I've done it. Check. Complete. Like, let's move it on.
No more.
I'm good. Arion is navigating like an absolute pro. At one point, he even jumps over a humpback whale, which is pretty cool. And after what feels like just a few minutes, they arrive at Hubbard Glacier. And the glacier just looks baffling to Hazel, even though she has experience with glaciers by living in Alaska. Narrator Hazel describes it as, quote, purple snow-capped mountains marched off in either direction, with clouds floating around their middles like fluffy belts. In a massive valley between 2 of the largest peaks, a ragged wall of ice rose out of the sea, filling the entire gorge. The glacier was blue and white with streaks of black, so that it looked like a hedge of dirty snow left behind on a sidewalk after a snowplow had gone by, only 4 million times as large. I love when Uncle Rick does these. This is great. Like, you understand the majesty, you understand the size, you understand the emotion that Hazel's feeling, just like how small she feels in comparison to this thing. And by giving sweet analogies of daily life situations you may have run into, you can understand the color scheme. I think it's fantastic.
I think it's that kind of way that Rick describes it to the daily life that I find so amazing, because it's kind of like, it not only makes it more relatable to the reader, but also it makes it a more realistic image because you're like, oh, I can like pull this together to create this canvas. And you're like, but I could be there because I've seen like this and that and this and all come together. And I don't know, it's the way he kind of makes you feel like you can be the hero, which is kind of what we're getting at with this series, which I think is quite amazing.
Yeah, I really like it. He's often cooking, and he is cooking again with this description.
Oh, yeah.
Hazel immediately feels the cold radiating off of the ice, and then the whole team hears what sounds like thunder rolling across. Frank asks if it's a storm, but Hazel lets him know that it's the sound of ice cracking and shifting. Now, I don't know if this is like a normal thing that just constantly happens for giant glaciers like this, or if Rick is making a cool sort of global warming commentary. Could be a little column A, column B. Like maybe that does happen because of global warming, but regardless, it just, again, lets us know how truly large this area is, like how big of a situation we're dealing with here. Frank asks if the wall is breaking, and as if it is following a script, a sheet crashes into the sea, and it shoots water upward, and it sends a booming sound towards them. So Frank thinks it's too dangerous to get close, but Percy says that they have to do it because Alcyoneus is on top of this ice wall. And then Arion nickers, which is a horse term I was unfamiliar with, but I Googled it and I watched a YouTube video of a horse doing it. And it's kind of like this low, grumbly noise. I kind of like a yeah. So not a high-pitched whinny, but more of like a and then Percy hears whatever Arion was saying and then says to Hazel, geez, Hazel, tell your horse to watch his language, which is becoming a theme. We've really established here that Arion has a sailor's mouth.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you know, going across the water, all of that good stuff. You're going to have to adopt it somewhere. But yeah, definitely a bad line.
I mean, look, foul language from Arion, but I think it's a really fun dynamic with Percy having to translate.
Oh, yeah.
Also, maybe I'm the weird one, but in the book, they write G's as Jeez. I've been on record on this podcast as being a Geez person. When you write G's, do you write it with a J or with a G?
I think I write it with a J. Oh, no, do I? Oh, no, I think G. Have I done it with a G? Yeah, I think I'm more of a G.
I do it with a G because if I was going to write Gee Whiz, I would write Geewhiz.
Yes.
So to do G's, which kind of feels like a combo of that. But then I could also see why people do a J if you're doing it like as a PG version of trying to say Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
True. That would be more of the J. But I don't know. For me, I'm always a G's with a G person.
Yeah, I think a G with the G's. It feels more natural to me.
Okay, cool. For the rest of the episode, you're now Joel Rochester with a G, though.
Oh, no.
Goel Rochester. Goel. And then we'll make the CH a hard CH. You're Goel Rochester.
I feel like I'm some kind of like American landmark now.
Yeah, there could be a park named after you. Goel Rochester Park. That's kind of good.
Park. There we go.
So Hazel chuckles and asks what Arion said, and Percy says that without the cussing, the horse informed them that he can bring them to the top. So Frank, in a classic Frank move, this is fully established as the thing Frank does. He just gets confused by the wild things that happen in their wild world. He says, quote, I thought the horse couldn't fly. And then Arion gives off a very clearly angry whinny. Displeased that Frank would doubt him. And Percy then tells Arion that he's gotten suspended from school for saying less. And then he tells Hazel that Arion said that our team will see what he can do once they give him the go-ahead. So Arion's supremely confident. You love to see it.
Yeah, for sure. Just a great character. Great horse.
It's very interesting because we're getting all of this character building for Arion without really getting to hear much of what he is actually saying because a lot of his lines, quote unquote, have been for not Percy chapters. So there's been a couple of times where Percy translates it, or at least as the narrator lets us know the type of thing he says, but it's not like Blackjack where we have direct quotes, but it's still done in an effective enough way where we get Arion's vibe, and it is that he's grumpy and curmudgeon-y and, very intense.
Yeah.
But I like it. I think it's a fun new way to have a characterization of a horse-type character, which we have a lot of now. They're adding so many more in this series.
They are. I think it's very fun as well because, like, it's Rick's writing showing that you can develop a character just from what they say, but you can also do it from, like, the way they act, the kind of things that, like, infer from other characters. I think it's so interesting, like, the way he develops both human and non-human characters in that way.
Yes, totally. And I think that's similar to what he does with the narrators. And that's what's fun about this series, having the rotating narrators. He does a good job of letting you know more about a character just by the way that they kind of operate. And I think, like you're saying with the actions, that's one way. And another way is just like the way that the narrators describe stuff, or some of the words that they use, or some of the thoughts that they have. You get to like learn more about Hazel's vibe, or Frank's vibe, or Percy's vibe, based on just like the style in which they tell the story. Yeah. I think it's very interesting.
For sure.
Hazel tells the team to hold on tight to Arion, and she calls for Arion to giddy up. Arion charges towards the glacier. Hazel worries about all the pieces falling off. The thunder noise rattles as they get close. Frank shouts, "Look out," which narrator Hazel notes that's an unnecessary thing for him to say. Arion dodges the debris and uses the cracks and crevices to scale the glacier. Quote, "It was like falling down a mountain in reverse," is how narrator Hazel describes it. And then they get to the top, and at the top, Arion stands proudly and whinnies out to the mountains. And Percy doesn't translate it, but Hazel figures that he said something to the effect of, "Beat that, ya punks," to any horses that might be within earshot of this echoing gargantuan whinny. And I really like it. A trash-talking horse, I respect it. I think it's great.
Sure. I think it's like the horse to beat. He's like, I am the top horse. Like, you're not going to get any better than me. Blackjack might have something to say about that. But,
He's the Michael Jordan of horses. He is very confident and fully believes that he is the best. Yeah. And anyone else is going to have to prove it. And I'm putting forth my work, and I'm letting it be known. I'm the top horse. Come at me.
Basically, yeah.
So Arion goes inland. He jumps over a 50-foot chasm, very casually mentioned. And then Percy points out a frozen Roman camp that looks like a giant scaled-up replica of Camp Jupiter. It looks vacant, but Hazel still feels wary because it's reminding her of the cave in Resurrection Bay. So she's getting bad vibes. The bad vibes are really going out to everyone because even Arion seems spooked, and he just did scream out to any horse within earshot. So clearly spooky vibes emanating from this place. Now, Percy suggests to Frank that they travel on foot going forward. Frank agrees, and it seems mostly like he just wants to get off the horse. So he's thinking, yeah, great idea. Let's walk, please. I hate this. Can we get off of this ride? They approach the gates of this camp. Percy and Frank are walking on either side of Hazel on top of Arion, and Hazel is trying to search for any sort of trip mine that might be buried underneath the ground. She's trained to do so. She's a daughter of Pluto, but she doesn't sense that anything is underneath. Now, she is, however, able to see down the Via Praetoria all the way to the front of the Principia, where there is a tall, dark-robed man bound by chains, and Hazel just knows that this is Thanatos. And what confirms this is that her soul feels drawn to him. It just feels like it wants to give itself over to Thanatos, and that feeling is so intense that she begins to lose her vision and her balance on top of the horse, but Frank catches her and repositions her and then promises that he and Percy will make sure that no one takes her away. I love the support that they all have for each other.
Oh, for sure. And I think like for Hazel as well, this is such like a pivotal moment for her when she's been trying to avoid this for like God knows how long. And it's just like, gosh, what's going to happen now? Like, now that we're here, like, it's kind of the top tip of the iceberg to where they're like, everything that they've been working towards is culminating and just like, what's going to happen now? And I think like, just feeling that fear from Hazel as well is kind of like, as a reader, you're kind of like, oh God, I'm scared.
Right. Especially because Hazel's pretty confident. She usually goes into these situations with a lot of gusto, and she's truly spooked. So now you're like, oh man, if Hazel's spooked, I feel like I should be spooked. And on a smaller extent, same kind of thing with Arion. You know, it's similar to that. Like the people who are super duper confident are a bit hesitant. Like, So narrator Hazel says, quote, about after Frank repositions her. Hazel gripped his hand. She didn't want to let go. He was so solid, so reassuring. But Frank couldn't protect her from death. His own life was as fragile as a half-burned piece of wood. And yeah, at first when Frank said, we'll protect you from anything, I was like, okay, you guys are going to do your best, but you are facing literal death and a giant. Yeah. I didn't even think of the angle that Hazel brought up, which is, and also if Frank gets too close to a candle, he might go kaput. It's a tough situation. So Hazel really understands the stakes and just how delicate everything is right now.
For sure.
So she says that she's all right, but she doesn't mean it. She's lying. She's not feeling great. Percy feels like this has to be a trap, just that there's no defenses, there's no signs of Alcyoneus, and I'm thinking, yes, they want you to come here. We have known as much via the dreams that he wants this fight. So it's pretty clear it's a trap. And Frank is on the same page as me because he says, quote, obviously, but I don't think we have a choice. He nailed it. And it reminds me of when you're playing a particular video game and you know that the boss fight is about to happen and you just have to walk into the room to progress the game. It's just like, is there anything I can do? It's like, no, you have to enter the room and the cutscene will start. Drink all your health potions, save the game, do what you got to do. But like every now and then you just have to progress. There's no other choice.
No, literally, there's no skirting around it. You can't avoid it. You just have to like go in, watch the cutscene and then try to beat the boss and then die a few times before you actually beat the boss.
Yeah, depends on the game. Yeah. Some it's tricky. So as they enter, Hazel is off-put by how this place seems like an exact replica of Camp Jupiter, but just 3 times as large. She just feels tiny and insignificant compared to the size of everything around her. And they get about 10 feet away from Thanatos, and when they approach him, Hazel has this internal struggle. She wants to finish the quest, but she worries knowing that if Thanatos merely touches her, she could be gone. But then she does double down that she does want to finish this quest because she realizes that if she doesn't complete it, she'll still die, but in a cowardly manner. If she goes out achieving the quest and trying to save as many people as possible, at least she'll go down being a brave hero. So she realizes, okay, end result is I'm going to die. Might as well do the cool version, which I respect.
Yeah, I think it's like a very cool, like, turning point for Hazel where you get to really see, because obviously she's been brave and stuff throughout, but like this is the point where I think it truly marks her status as a hero, because it's kind of like if she's going to go down, she's going to go down doing the brave, cool thing, which is what any hero would want to do. And I think like that decision in and of itself, I was like, you're a cool person.
Especially for a 13-year-old.
Exactly.
Man. Powerful. So Hazel goes up to Thanatos and says, hello, Mr. Death? And I really wanted him to respond, please, Mr. Death is my father. Call me Thanatos. But I guess technically that wouldn't be right. Like, who is Thanatos' dad? Thanatos is the personification of death in Greek mythology. He is the son of Nyx, night, and the twin brother of Hypnos, sleep. Some sources also name Erebus, darkness, as his father. Okay. It seems like he is the son of Erebus, so I guess it's just like darkness and then chaos would be his grandfather or grandparent. But anyway, all this to say, Mr. Death is my father is a joke, not an accurate Greek mythology joke. But I love, please, Mr. or Mrs. Blank is my blank, call me blank. I always think that's very funny. Now Thanatos raises his head. And when he does, the camp springs to life. And narrator Hazel describes it as, quote, figures in Roman armor emerged from the barracks, the Principia, the armory, and the canteen. But they weren't human. They were shades, the chattering ghosts Hazel had lived with for decades in the fields of Asphodel. Their bodies weren't much more than wisps of black vapor, but they managed to hold together sets of scale armor, greaves, and helmets. Frost-covered swords were strapped to their waists. Pila and dented shields floated in their smoky hands. The plumes on the centurion's helmets were frozen and ragged. Most of the shades were on foot, but 2 soldiers burst out of the stables in a golden chariot pulled by ghostly black steeds. Very cool, very good vibes. And initially, because it was very underworld coded, I was wondering, has Alcyoneus done something to Thanatos where he is summoning this ghostly army against his will? We will learn later what it is, but just initially, the vibes from a villain perspective, immaculate.
Oh, no, for sure. You're like, what is going on? How is this happening? What is like, are they going to have to fight? Are they going to have to like, what is this building to? And I think it perfectly like starts amping up the tension for like the last act of this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Arion stomps in defiance when he catches glimpse of the other horses, which I think is great. I like that he's thinking, no, I'm the horse. This is me. Frank then grabs his bow and says, yep, here's the trap. And that's the end of chapter 43, which I have retitled, We Fall Down a Mountain in Reverse. Do you have a retitling of chapter 43? I just thought that was such a fun line, and it felt very Percy Jackson chapter title coded.
Yeah, it does feel very like we fall down a mountain. That's very cool. Ooh. I think it would be like the very obvious trap.
Yeah.
Also.
Right. Yeah, I think that would be kind of fun to title the chapter that you figure is about a trap. Just like, yep, the trap's here.
The trap is like you're going to have to
We're
progress.
all aware. We know what's going on. All right, let's keep it going into chapter 44, which is also called Hazel, but of course we will retitle it. This chapter opens with, quote, the ghosts formed ranks and encircled the crossroads. So not necessarily our cool banger opening chapter line that we usually get, but when you have something where, you know, the cliffhanger is the action, you got to just continue the story. So I'm fine with it. We learn that there are 100 people in this army, and that size is basically in between a cohort and a legion. Some of these fighters have banners from Michael Varus's failed 1980s 12th Legion expedition. Others carry banners with symbols that Hazel doesn't recognize, meaning that they died on different quests at different times and perhaps from different locations other than Camp Jupiter, which I think is very interesting. I wonder if this lore will be expanded upon. I wonder if we're going to learn that expanded or expounded?
I think expanded.
Expound definition from dictionary.com. Present and explain a theory or idea in detail. Okay, so go into more detail, and then expand would be broaden. So I guess in this case, expound. So I wonder if this will be expounded upon, where we'll learn more if people are getting sent from Camp Half-Blood, people are getting sent from other camps that may exist. So I think that's very interesting. Or it could all just be, it's just from a time of Camp Jupiter of which Hazel is unfamiliar. But it was a cool little thing to add that like it's not just the one failed expedition. There have been multiple, which is cool. Well, cool in the sense of us, the reader, not cool for the dead fictional characters.
They're currently cool right now, given the fact they're by an iceberg. So, or on an iceberg.
We're back. It is cool. It's very cool. Now, most of these fighters have Imperial gold weapons. Hazel notes that it's more gold than the entire 12th Legion has, and she can feel the power of this gold all around her, and it scares her more than the crackling glacier. She considers trying to use her power to control the gold, but she hesitates since she knows that it's more than just a precious metal. It's a material that is deadly to demigods and monsters, and trying to corral it would be like trying to control plutonium in a reactor. Clearly, Hazel's up to speed with her science. It's too risky if things go wrong. So Hazel screams to Thanatos that they are here to save him, and she begins to say that if he controls these spirits, he should stop, but she stops short of completing her sentence because Thanatos spreads his wings, which removes his robes and leaves him in just a sleeveless black tunic, and narrator Hazel notes that he's the most attractive man she has ever seen. And at least from my knowledge of Thanatos, which comes solely from Hades the video game, yeah, that tracks. Yeah. Dude's cute. He's cute.
For sure.
Now, the description of him says that he has teak wood colored skin, which I Googled, and it's just kind of like a darker stained wood. And he has golden eyes. He's muscular but lean. He has a regal looking face and long flowing shoulder length black hair. His wings are blue and black and purple, and Hazel has to remind herself to breathe, so he is literally breathtakingly gorgeous.
Yep.
All she can muster up is an "oh" in a small voice.
Literally. Honestly, mood.
Yeah. Look, and I know the fantasy trend right now with all of these, isn't it like a Court of Thorns and Roses or whatever? Like, aren't all these books that are like romantasy is the big thing? So I'm assuming that you are more well-versed in fantasy-based descriptions of people being super duper hot. Does this line up with those, or are these more, are those a little more like, a romance novel-y.
I think this is like very like, oh, this person's hot. In like romantasy, you'd have like very much more like romance kind of language, and they're like the chiseled abs, like sweat glistened.
Okay,
like,
glistening always finds a way.
He growled in anticipation. Like it's very much like animalistic, and I'm like, oh, good for you.
Glistening, the range on the word glistening is fun because it's either dew on plants in the morning or sweat down a hot guy's abs. And like that's the two uses of glistening.
And it's just like a sliding scale in between.
Yeah, it's
literally.
So Thanatos is shackled to the ground, and Frank goes, "It's Cupid," which I thought was confusing. I don't know if this was a joke or if he's being serious. And then Percy goes, "A really buff Cupid." What was your read here? I didn't know if they were being serious or if they're making a joke.
Oh, I'm trying to think. Like maybe they were just commenting on like how beautiful he was. It was like, oh, it has to be Cupid because like, you know, and then but then I'm also like,
but don't they know? Like they know it's Thanatos.
Yeah. I'm guessing they're just trying to make a comment on his appearance being ultra hot. So it's I guess it's kind of a joke.
I mean, yeah, I was confused by it. And also we haven't actually met Cupid in these books, right? We had the little tiny Cupid statues with the Hephaestus trap in book 1 of the Percy Jackson series, but we haven't actually met Cupid.
Let me just...
Yeah, you Google, because I don't want to Google, and it's like, in book 5 of Heroes of Olympus, when Cupid murders Grover. Yeah.
Okay, no. At this point, no.
Okay. Trapdoor intact. Thanatos, who also has a gorgeous deep voice, because of course... He says that this is a compliment and it's a common misconception, as he is often mistaken for the god of love. So maybe that is, the whole thing is just to kind of make this point. He says that love and death are more similar than one would think, but he does confirm that he is the god of death. Hazel has no doubts. Her only doubt is if Thanatos actually needs to touch her to kill her. She's just not feeling strong right now. Narrator Hazel says, quote, "He could simply tell her to die. She would kneel over on the spot, her soul obeying that beautiful voice and those kind eyes." Yeah, this is basically like the teen appropriate version of Hubba Hubba type narration.
Oh, yeah.
She manages to relay that they are here to save him, and she asks, "Where's Alcyoneus?" And Thanatos is surprised that she's here to save him. She checks to see if she understands the consequences of doing so. And Percy steps forward and says, "We're wasting time," which I think is cool, but then he immediately swings his sword at the chains. And I was like, yo, what if Hazel died? Like right away. I know we're trying to move quickly, but could you not take a beat to check in with Hazel? Like, hey, just in case you instantly die after I do this. Like, wild.
Percy's very much like that Dungeons and Dragons player who's just like rushing in. No time for conversation. I'm just going to swing my sword at you and hope for the best. And it's just like, no, you do not know the consequences of your actions.
It's like the player who's like, can I just roll for initiative? Like, I'm ready to go.
It's like, no, we have to do the world building.
We got to fight them. Riptide catches in these chains, and then the frost begins to spread and transfer from the chain onto the blade. But with Frank's help, Percy is able to yank it free just in time, and the frost does not overtake Riptide. Thanatos says that this slashing plan won't work. He says that Alcyoneus is close, and he says that the shades belong to Alcyoneus. Thanatos then shoots a look at the enemy soldiers. They all shiver in fear. Hazel asks, "How do we free you?" And Thanatos says that she, of all people, should not want him released. And she replies, "Don't you think I know that?" Oh, I love it. She's got no patience for the shenanigans. And it did kind of feel like Thanatos was stalling a little bit. So I'm glad that at least Hazel and Percy are both on the, we gotta go. We can't dilly-dally. There's only like 12 chapters left of this book. We've got to go. And the chapters are getting shorter. These episodes of The Newest Olympian that Mike Schubert is making are now 3 chapters to 4 chapters. Like, we gotta go.
Gotta stop. It's like, we have gone all this way not to like sit and have tea with you. We literally need to go.
Look at the percentage meter at the bottom of the e-reader. We're at 84% right now. We gotta go.
And we need to get to 85%. So just tell us how to free you.
So Hazel fights back tears, but she commits to seeing this through, as she doesn't want to avoid the brave decision like she avoided doing the brave thing 70 years ago. She goes, quote, "Listen, Death, I didn't come back from the underworld and travel thousands of miles to be told that I'm stupid for setting you free. If I die, I die. I'll fight this whole army if I have to. Just tell us how to break your chains." Hazel's fantastic. I love Hazel. I think she's so great. Like, instantly just skyrocketing up my list of favorite characters. She's just so cool and so impressive, all at the age of 13. Wild stuff. I love it.
No, honestly, I think Hazel, specifically from like the Heroes of Olympus series, like she is one of my favorites. I think like her whole trajectory is so interesting to read about. I really enjoy her character.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Thanatos explains that these shades were demigods that fought for Rome and died without completing quests, and they were sent to Asphodel. Gia has promised them new life if they fight for her today, and Thanatos says that if he's released, he will return them, and they will face eternal punishment for treason against the gods. This, I thought, was a very interesting development of the army. I think it's way more fascinating than, you know, Hades can summon a skeleton army, so Alcyoneus can summon a ghost army, whatever. I think specifically the concept of bitter, angry, dead demigods that were in the fields of Asphodel is such an exciting move and a decision for Rick to make for Gia. Just makes it like weirdly makes the enemy army like a little more compelling. Like you can kind of see why they would be frustrated.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think it not only gives it that kind of aspect, but I think also it gives a little bit more dimension to demigods, because we've seen it in the past, like examples of demigods being like evil and stuff like that. But seeing like a whole group of them on this scale is just so interesting to then see and be like, oh, what happens to demigods after they die? Like, what's their fate? Like, what do they do? And it's just, I think it leaves a lot of like big philosophical questions about like demigods after they die and all of that.
Yeah, it's something we don't really think about because we think about, oh, their lives are so short, their lives are doomed. But you're right, thinking of that next step doesn't become as common. And then these folks particularly, they have a reason to be angry at Rome. They died fighting for Rome. So they would be bitter towards Rome and they would be down to fight Camp Jupiter. And I think that makes them very compelling as an enemy army, because when you have the monster army in the Percy Jackson books with Luke, they're just kind of like, yeah, vaguely we dislike the gods and we are inherently sort of evil as monsters. So okay, we're just going to be bad. But these people kind of have a vested interest. They have legitimate reasoning for fighting against the people they're fighting against, which I think makes the battle more enticing.
Oh, for sure. Definitely.
So Thanatos continues that they aren't so different from Hazel. And I'm thinking, there is a key difference in that Hazel's not trying to destroy the world. She is trying to save the world. But then he says, are you sure you want to release me and damn these souls forever? And then I was realizing, oh, he means more of like that sort of similar, not necessarily in their approach, but in their reality of people who aren't supposed to be alive and need to get sent back into the underworld. So it was like almost like a guilt trip move from him.
Oh, yeah.
In a way.
It's like, do you want to be freed or not?
Frank says that this isn't fair, and Death says that the word fair is meaningless. And then he asks Frank if it's fair that his life will burn so short and bright. And I've already not been feeling great about Frank's chances making it out of this series. My dude's cooked. When literal Death is saying, oh man, it's not looking good for you. Yeah. Just, I'm not feeling good about my guy's chances. And then Thanatos asks if it was fair when he brought his mom to the underworld. And I think it's super valid for him to bring up. I'm a big life's not fair guy, not in a jerk way when people use it as a justification of being mean or rude, but more of just the world we're currently in right now, I think really proves that life's not fair. And there's a lot of things, especially when people get into like big philosophical debates, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, but you have to remember we're in a terribly flawed, unfair society where like things are not just. So I think taking the life's not fair approach is good in terms of like recognizing the stakes of a situation. And I think Thanatos is right here. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter that things are fair. Like life is not fair. Death is not fair. You kind of just have to operate under the circumstances that you're given. You don't really get a choice in that.
No, for sure. And like, to quote Hamilton, death just takes and takes and takes and takes. Like it never gives. So...
Frank is stunned. Thanatos continues that it's not fair that he took Frank's mom, but it was still her time. He says death is never fair, and if they free him, he will do his duty, but he warns that the Shades will try and stop them. Percy says, quote, so if we let you go, we get mobbed by a bunch of black vapor dudes with gold swords? Fine. How do we break those chains? Percy, unfazed, supremely confident, human Arion mode. He's ready to go. Thanatos smirks and explains that only the fire of life can melt the chains of death. And I wrote in my notes, no time for poems, Thanatos. And then Percy, the next line, replies, without the riddles, please? And I love it. When I play Baldur's Gate 3, there's very often times if a character says something that sounds very poetic like this, one of the dialogue options is, can you just give it to me straight? And I pick that every single time.
It's like, cut the flowery language. Just tell me what to do.
Tell me what's happening, because I don't want to pick a choice and then realize you were being metaphorical, not literal, or literal, not metaphorical. So please, before I decide to attack you or not, tell me what you're implying.
And then you try and ask them, and then you roll 1. And then they're like, you'll just have to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, the narrator just goes, you can't think about it. Nothing comes to mind. Frank tells Percy that it's not a riddle. And then I wrote in my notes, oh no, Frank's stick. And Hazel is thinking what I'm thinking. She pleads with Frank that there has to be another way. And then laughter echoes across the glacier. My friends, I've waited so long. I love Alcyoneus. He's so good. He's such a good villain. He's been great in every single instance up until this point. And then from this chapter and into the next chapter,
oh yeah.
He's wonderful as a villain. So Alcyoneus is described as being even bigger than Polybites by narrator Hazel. He has golden metallic skin. He has platinum armor. He has an iron staff that is enormous. He has rust red dragon legs, and his hair is in braids that are adorned with precious stones. Really good vibe. Really good vibe. Narrator Hazel says, quote, Hazel had never seen him fully formed, but she knew him better than she knew her own parents. She had made him. For months, she had raised gold and gems from the earth to create this monster. She knew the diamonds he used for a heart. She knew the oil that ran in his veins instead of blood. More than anything, she wanted to destroy him. And this whole description, I think, does a very good job of getting to that last line. It really shows why she wants to destroy this guy. It's reminding us he's only here because of her. It shows that she knows him better than any villain she's faced yet. And these things combined, just, she really wants to take this guy down. And that will make it very satisfying if they do defeat him as a group. And if she specifically deals the final blow, it'll make it incredibly satisfying.
Oh, no, definitely. Like, I think it's not only a thing of like, oh, we need to stop the bad guy, but I think for Hazel, it's kind of like, I need to correct what I've done.
100%. Alcyoneus walks closer, and he gives a big grin with his silver teeth and says, Ah, Hazel Levesque, you cost me dearly. If not for you, I would have risen decades ago, and this world would already be Gia's. But no matter. And then he spreads his arm to show off his army. Gosh, I love this guy. God, he's so great. And then he continues, Welcome, Percy Jackson. Welcome, Frank Zhang. I am Alcyoneus, the Bane of Pluto, the new master of death, and this is your new legion. And that's the end of the chapter. Gosh, I fully recognize that he might die in 2 chapters. I am hoping at this point that it's much like, who's the big scary giant from the first book that kind of yoinked out of there before they could defeat him?
Oh my God.
They were raising the big scary giant to fight Hera. Not Enchiladas, but the other one. Porphyrion.
Oh.
So Porphyrion like had some good vibes, and then he got away, so it's like he's coming back. As much as I do want them to defeat him, I want him to come back in book 5. I really, because he's so fun, and I need more of him. So that is the end of chapter 44, which I have retitled, We Meet Really Buff Cupid. Do you have a retitling of this chapter?
A Date with Mr. Death.
Ooh, I like it. I like that a lot. That's fun. We're going to take our mid-roll break, the Son of Fortune, and then we'll get back to do chapter 45 to conclude this episode. But enjoy the mid-roll break. We're going to be talking about the new shows and the new merch and the new things on Patreon and the new other stuff I'm doing. There's so many cool things. Hello and welcome to the Son of Fortune Canada edition, specifically Niagara Falls edition. I am currently on a vacation with my family here to Niagara Falls. It is my first time being here. It is gorgeous. It is very cool. And you know what else is very cool? The updates that we've got for the podcast. First up, I do have a programming note. We are not having an episode next week. It has been 8 weeks since I've taken a week off, and I have lots of catching up to do after tour and everything like that. So we're taking a break, but don't worry. There will be something on your feed, and it will be the first episode of the podcast that I recently put up into the world and co-created with my buddy Eric Hamilton Schneider. It's a Fast and Furious podcast called The Last and the Curious. I had never seen 1 second of a Fast and Furious movie, and Eric is a super fan. So when we were on tour together for TNO 2 years ago, we watched movies and then immediately got on the mic and recorded them together, and it was absolutely delightful. And we've been working on it for the past 2 years, and now you can get all of the episodes right now for just $5 on the TNO shop, on the TNO Patreon, or you can go to the URL, The Last and the Curious, but it's thelastandthecurio.us. And then you can go right to it and download it. It's just $5. It's completely ad-free. You get all of the episodes. We have one for every single movie. We have one in the beginning where I do predictions before I watch any of the movies. Then we do a ranking one at the end. Super fun, well-produced. We did all the work for it. We're super proud of it. And we hope you enjoy it. So next week, in place of an episode, you will get the first episode of that. So you can kind of see what it's like before committing. But shout out to all the people who've already listened to it and reached out saying nice things about it. Other stuff that's going on. If you are listening to this on the day it comes out, which is Monday, April 21st, that means there's just 4 days left for you to order the merch from our crossover merch drop with Inland Stuff. If you go to inlandstuff.com, you can place your pre-order. The pre-orders end on April 25th, and that's where you can get the TNO long sleeve, the Medusa shirt. They added a new sticker pack. There's a blackjack shirt. There's a bunch of really cool stuff, and you can get it at inlandstuff.com. If you are in America and you spend over $50, shipping is free, and international, it's flat rate $12 shipping. And speaking of things coming to a close recently, our 7-day replay ended for the live stream that we did in Des Moines, which was the first 2 chapters, and we actually did a little bit of chapter 3 of The Mark of Athena. I will be doing basically the same thing that I did last time, where you can eventually go to the shop portion of the TNO Patreon, and you can get the replay of it, and I will send it out to everyone who also bought a ticket, so you can have the actual physical file, I guess digital, but you'll have the digital file. I just have to take all the steps to take the high quality recording and turn it into a video file that I can put on the Patreon, blah, 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 blah. The plan is to get the high quality video version replay of the stream up on the TNO shop on the Patreon right as we finish our coverage of Son of Neptune. That way you won't have to wait before we get into the Mark of Athena, because we are going to be doing some stuff in between book 2 and book 3. We've got the Dr. Moya episode, we've got the Demigod Diaries, and then we get into Mark of Athena. So if you can't wait, you'll be able to go in the shop. And once again, I just want to thank everyone who made the Midwest tour happen, everyone who came to the shows, Johnny and Eric for joining as guests and helping me with all of the different production things, all the folks who helped out running the merch tables. It was such a team village full of people effort, and I thank everyone who played a part in it. And then also, we've got 2 shows in May coming up, Montreal, May 3rd, and Buffalo, which is not too far from where I'm at right now, on May 9th. I will be announcing new shows in the coming weeks, so make sure you're just following Newest Olympian on Instagram. That's where I make most of those posts. And if you want tickets to the shows, you can go to thenewestolympian.com/live. Now, I've mentioned the Patreon a couple times. I'm going to give a shout out to the folks who have joined the Patreon most recently. So shout out to our newest demigod tier patrons, Cecilia Westcott and KH. Thank you all so much for your support. May Hestia bless you that if you are trying to check into your hotel in Niagara Falls, you go to the correct one, not one of the other very similarly named ones, because there's lots of hotels that all like to talk about having a view of the falls, or being near the falls, or on the falls, or above the falls, or next to the falls, and you go to the right falls-related one. Now, if you're all caught up on the Newest Olympian and you're looking for some new content to consume, you are in luck, because if you like this podcast, you might like some of the other podcasts that I make. And one of the shows you might like is one that I make with the help of my good friend and professional stand-up comedian, Adam Amawala. It's a basketball podcast called Horse, but it's a basketball podcast where we appeal to everyone. If you have no idea what's going on with basketball in the NBA and the WNBA, we explain everything so you can understand the more entertaining elements, or the things that people are talking about online, like player beef and drama and trades and what's this Luka Doncic trade and stuff like that. But also, if you're a big basketball fan, this is just a lighthearted, goofy way to talk about basketball current goings on and also basketball history. So you can listen to Horse wherever you get your podcasts by searching for Horse, or by going to our website, horsehoops.com. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon, where you get access to ad-free episodes, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, and others of them won't be. The ones that aren't read by me are inserted locally. So if you live in Canada, don't be surprised to hear an ad in English still, but the URLs will probably direct you to .ca addresses. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back into this episode of The Newest Olympian. And we're back, and we're here to discuss Chapter 45, which is a Frank chapter. We will, of course, retitle it. It's titled Frank. This chapter opens with, quote, "No fairness in death." Those words kept ringing in Frank's head. A good opening line, and it kind of harkens back to the last big emotional beat that Frank had in a Hazel chapter. Let's pick it up from there. Narrator Frank lets us know. Not afraid of Alcyoneus or his army, but Frank is afraid of freeing Thanatos since that god took his mother. So the stakes have been put forth. Frank is fully convinced that he is going to have to give his life to break the chains. He feels his mother's medal of sacrifice in his pocket, and for the first time, he understands why she did what she did. Some things are worth dying for. So I really appreciate Frank kind of coming to terms with this. It's funny, we're recording this on March 25th, so the episode just came out where Frank had talked to Mars, and he was being really bitter with him because Mars was hyping up his mom and his mom's sacrifice and how great he thought it was, and Frank was kind of like, grumble, grumble, it left me all alone.
Yeah.
And then a couple people commented on Spotify saying it's still fresh for Frank. He's not fully gathered his thoughts on it yet. Give him some time. And it seems like the correct amount of time was a couple of chapters because now he has the right approach. I think that is a fun commentary. I'm glad that normally I am much farther ahead in terms of the podcast where like I'm usually weeks and weeks ahead in terms of what I'm recording than what is coming out, because I think a lot of times, and I get it, but there's a lot of times where people will have a certain reaction to a character and they'll be like, oh, Mike's being like too harsher on this person. It's like, yeah, you finished the book. I haven't finished the book. And again, to speak of the episode that just came out, it's one where I admit like, I don't really like Ella that much. Like she's kind of not really contributing things. Like, yes, she's got a quirky, interesting way of speaking, but like in terms of substance, not much there. And then of course, when she finally like does the emotional things of, you know, helping the team and revealing the prophecy and hiding in the forest and all that, then it's like, okay, never mind. I love Ella and I would die for Ella. But you know, if I hadn't been weeks ahead and people are like, no, Ella's great, I'd be like, I wonder what Ella does that makes her great. So
yeah, that's true.
I am happy for my spoiler safety that I'm usually weeks and weeks and weeks ahead.
Oh, definitely. And I think like, because when I created my own like series of like reading the books, I just like read them and then put them out. So by the time the video went out, I'd already read the entire like series. So people who were commenting and stuff, I didn't have to worry being like, oh, I wonder what's going to come up in this book or that book. It was just like a kind of whole conversation. And like when you mentioned about Frank specifically and like his kind of journey, I think like him being confronted with the potential of death and like his own death made him realize and relate more to his mother in that way, which I think he needed that in this sense where it was like, I can now understand why my mother did what she did and like I can be at peace with that potentially. I don't know if right now he's fully at peace, but I think he's starting that kind of road towards it.
Yeah, he's kind of seeing what it would be like to take a walk in her shoes. He's realizing sometimes you have to sacrifice for the greater good. And yes, that will hurt people close to you. Like if Frank dies and the other two live, Hazel will be very sad. Percy will be very sad. And it's not exactly the same, but it's similar to Frank's mother dying and then Frank being left alone and being sad. So I think he's kind of fully grasping her perspective. He asks Hazel for the stick, referring to it as, quote, that package you're keeping for me. So a good nondescript way of making sure that he gets what he needs without fully revealing his plan. Hazel doesn't want to do it. Narrator Frank describes her as looking like a queen atop of Arion. So we get a quick little, hey, just because Hazel's been the narrator for a little bit, we got to let you know she looks awesome. She looks really cool. Let's just establish that. Frank says that he knows what he's doing. Thanatos smiles and says that Frank is right. Sacrifices must be made. And the narrator Frank goes, quote, great. If Death approved of his plan, Frank was pretty sure he wasn't going to like the results. A+, A+, A+. Alcyoneus steps forward and asks Frank what he means by package, wondering if he's brought him a gift. And Frank says, "Nothing for you, golden boy, except a whole lot of pain." Love the action movie line.
Yes.
So solid. Get him, Frank, get him.
Get him.
Alcyoneus laughs and says that Frank sounds like a proper child of Mars. And he adds that it's a shame that I'll have to kill him before moving on to saying that he's been dying to meet the famed Percy Jackson. He tells Percy that he's been studying his career. He commends him on his fight against Kronos. And he says that Gia hates him more than anyone else, except for maybe Jason Grace. And I love that he's kind of already establishing the Percy versus Jason rivalry. Yeah. I don't know how that dynamic is going to take form. It feels like they're both very chill and usually big picture minded. So I don't think there's going to be any sort of jockeying for I'm the leader, you got to listen to me, I'm the Camp Half-Blood guy, I'm the Camp Jupiter guy, especially because Jason kind of didn't want to be the leader anyway. So I feel like there would be more cohesion there, but I do like the villains putting on a pedestal a little bit of the, like, these guys might be butting heads and who's the most favorite child, you know? So
who's the favorite child of the gods?
Who's the best boy? Yeah, the favorite child of the gods and the least favorite hero fighting against the monsters. Alcyoneus then apologizes for not being able to kill Percy right here and now, as Polybites wants to make Percy his pet. He lets us know that Polybites thinks it would be funny to have Neptune's favorite son on a leash while Polybites destroys Neptune. And he concludes by saying, quote, "After that, of course, Gia has plans for you." And Percy replies, "Yeah, flattering. But actually, I'm the son of Poseidon. I'm from Camp Half-Blood," which felt like, okay. And basically the response is, okay, because the army gets all riled up, but then Alcyoneus motions for them to calm down. And he just says, it doesn't matter if you're Greek or Roman, we're going to destroy both of the camps.
I can just imagine Percy in that moment just being like, that was such a good line. And then Alcyoneus just returns. He's like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I didn't think that through.
As someone who finds himself in instigating conversations, usually only within the confines of a sports event, like if I'm playing basketball, softball, trash talking, whatever, if you are the one making someone angry and they hit you with something that they think is a zinger and it doesn't faze you, it's really powerful. When someone's hitting you with like what they think is a gotcha and you go, okay, then, just sweep the rug out. So good. Very, very, very good. Alcyoneus says that the Titans messed up by not thinking big picture initially, back in the day. He harkens back to the line about trying to kill the gods at their source, which came up in the first book and made me think that they're going to Greece. And Frank picks up on this. He asks, Are you referring to Greece? And Frank's responses are so fun. He's so good, where he just usually is cutting to the Annabeth chase and really trying to address things head on. And I love it. So he asks,
so it's Frank being Frank.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm. Really good. Really good. Really good. Alcyoneus laughs and tells him that this shouldn't be a concern for Frank, as he's not going to live long enough to see the giant's completed plan. Chiron then, of course, nods in approval because Alcyoneus did not answer Frank's question of if they're going to Greece. We have to save that for chapter 53. Alcyoneus says, I have no idea if it's actually chapter 53. I think there's 56 chapters in this book, so I'm just trying to guess. Alcyoneus says he will replace Pluto as the lord of the underworld. He states that he already has death in his grasp, and once he adds Hazel, quote, in my service, he will inherit all the riches of the underworld as well. Hazel then grips her sword and says, I don't do service. And I think it's a cool line. And I would also think that this has a little extra oomph behind it, given that she is a black girl from the 40s. Mm-hmm. When he said service, I was like, ooh, and then she picked up on it. So I don't know if that's an intentional thing from Rick, but my interpretation at least was like, ooh, poor word choice from Alcyoneus. Like, that's really that's yikes.
Yeah.
Alcyoneus protests, citing that Hazel gave him life. He says that they hoped to awaken Gia during World War II, but now also works because the world is in just about as bad of a place. Quote, soon your civilization will be wiped out. The doors of death will stand open. Those who serve us will never perish, alive or dead. You three will join my army. And then Percy responds, fat chance, golden boy, you're going down. And I love that Percy has yes-anded Frank's nickname for him. He's rolling with it. Okay, Frank called you golden boy. I'm calling you golden boy. Let's keep it going. then Hazel asks Percy to wait because since she's brought him into this world, she wants to take him out.
I love the full circleness of it.
So good, so good. Alcyoneus plants his staff into the ice and asks Hazel if she's sure she won't willingly join their roster. And if I didn't love Alcyoneus enough, he says, quote, "You could be quite ... and then in italics, precious to us." He's perfect. He's perfect. He is perfect. He is perfect.
Oh, for sure.
He ends with asking, why would Hazel want to go through the pain of dying again? And Hazel gets enraged. She looks at Frank. She removes the stick from her coat. She asks Frank if he's sure. He confirms. She then tells Frank that he is also her best friend, and she should have told him that. I feel like I remember Frank saying to Hazel that she was his best friend. I don't remember it being an awkward non-reciprocation of this. So I couldn't recall like exactly what this was referring to, but I didn't have the instinct of like, oh yeah, there was that one time where Frank said she's her best friend and then, she said something awkward like, "You're one of my best friends." Like there was no like big landmark moment, but I do love Hazel trying to correct whatever wrong she felt like she did to Frank by not letting him know how much he means to her.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Hazel tosses Frank the stick and instructs him to do whatever he must do. She then addresses Percy and asks if he can protect Frank, and Percy scans the army and says, "Against a small army? Sure, no problem." Oh, Percy Jackson, I love you. Hazel then says, "Then I've got Golden Boy." And now, rule of threes, yes, and they all called him Golden Boy. The cohesion of this team is so good. The team chemistry off the charts. They have all used the same insult without having any sort of conversation about it. They just know one of our guys called him this. We're all going to call him this to really drive that point home. Oh, man. I love it. I love them. I love this trio. They are such a good group.
Oh, yeah. It definitely shows also how far they've come to, like, as a trio, like, their bond, if they're all calling him Golden Boy one after one another. It's just, it's so good.
Mm-hmm. And it's fun because it's like a sillier version of it, but this kind of feels like a they've gelled moment. And we had that with our trio in The Lost Hero, but it was completely different. It was when they all unspoken knew what to do to fight Enceladus at Mount Diablo. They had the plan where it was like, Leo's going to go over here and do the tinkering thing. We're going to go over here. That was like a big thing where you realize they've figured it out because they can, without communication, hatch a perfect plan and enact it. And I like that the version of it for a Son of Neptune trio is we're all in unison with our trash talk. Like that's how you know that they have coalesced as a cohesive unit is they're all taunting Alcyoneus with the same insults.
I feel like it's just so Percy at the same time where it's just like if he was going to have like this new trio, it would be like the trash talking, confidence, that kind of dynamic, which I think just is so good.
Yeah, and it works for Percy. Yes, Frank is the leader of this quest, but even as Frank has admitted, it is more of a team effort, and both Hazel and Frank look up to Percy. So I like with the sense of him being older and them, using him as a role model. It's almost like they kind of took his lead of, well, Percy's always trash talking to people before the fight starts, so that's just what you do, right?
Yeah.
That's just how one operates.
This is just how this works.
Right. It's like how when I grew up in New Jersey, like arguing is kind of like everyone's like second language. Like that's just how you talk to people is you have very passionate discussions. It doesn't mean you dislike them. It's just like how we speak to each other. And then when I moved to Texas, people thought I was way too intense. People were like, "Oh, you're so angry." I'm like, no. Like this is just what you do. Like you say that black olives aren't a valid topping on pizza, and I'm going to get really passionate about it because I think they're criminally underrated as a pizza topping. And then people are like, whoa, calm down. It's like, no, this is just how we speak. To me, this is what that kind of feels like of, oh yeah, the natural way that you fight giant evil people is you call them a sick burn first. Like you give them a pejorative nickname and then you fight. That's what our leader Percy Jackson has done, and we have learned from him. Hazel says, "Then I've got Golden Boy," and the narrator Hazel ends the chapter with, quote, "She charged the giant." Yeah! Oh, so good. So good. That is the end of chapter 45. That is the end of this episode of the New Olympian. I've retitled chapter 45, "I've Got Golden Boy," because it's just so powerful from Hazel. Do you have a retitling?
I feel like it would have to have like Golden Boy in it, like somewhere, just because of like the iconicness of it. Ooh.
The one I also was thinking, I don't know what it's from, but there's that quote that's "Stay gold, pony boy," right? Isn't that a thing?
Oh, The Outsider?
I think so. The Outsiders, yeah. So maybe it's like because she's on a pony, like stay pony, golden boy.
Gold boy, yeah. Stay pony, golden boy. I love that. Oh my gosh.
So that is the end of this episode. Joel, thank you so much for joining. Goel Rochester, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. If people want to find you doing stuff, where can they find you doing stuff?
Oh, well, somewhere in America, you can find my national park and come visit. That's great. Other than that, I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, all under Fictional Fates. I post a lot of different kinds of content, bookish content mostly. Yeah, it's a fun time. It's a great time. Thank you for having me back on. It's always amazing to be here.
Always a delight to have you on the show. I'm excited for whatever your next appearance is. I'm excited for what lies ahead at the end of this book and the rest of this series. But all that is to say, Joel, thank you for joining. Listeners, thank you for listening. And until we see how this fight goes down, I'll see you later. Hello! Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamanes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you really enjoy the show and you just can't get enough, there's a couple of different things that you can do. First, you can go to patreon.com/The Newest Olympian, and you can get access to all sorts of bonus content that I post on a very regular basis. You also can find us and get involved in the community on social media. We've got an Instagram, we've got a Bluesky, we've got a Twitter, we've got a Facebook, we've got a subreddit, we've got a Discord that's available to all patrons. If you want to support the show, you can get merch at thenewestolympian.com/merch. You can see live shows at thenewestolympian.com/live, and you can check out the aforementioned Patreon. And speaking of, I want to give a shout out to our highest tier, the ultra god tier patrons who are helping to produce this show with their financial support. So shout out to Kelsey Gillespie, Vicky Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Abby Ryan, Marco Redhouse, Sam Reeby, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkopf, Rayla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Persasabeth, Aiden Parziani, Grace, Ginger Spurs Boy, A Cup of Solace, Bradamus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Natanya Page, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Bella, Percy Jacked Son, Han Haley Hingelheimer Schmidt, Catherine Sloan, Haley Mary, Jim Jam Koopy, Kit Kat Crumbs, Andrea, not Andrea, Jordan Ray, Nico's Black Vespa, and Zayden Wintergate. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, just spreading the show via word of mouth is huge. You can tell someone directly who you think would like the show. You could post about it on social media. You could leave a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. All of these things really do help, and I really appreciate anyone who has done it in the past or will do so in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode, which will be on May 5th, as we cover chapters 46 and 47 of The Son of Neptune with Alyssa Esteban. But until then, I'll see you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mike. So I'm in the hotel room here in Niagara Falls, and I'm just gonna move the curtains and stuff behind me, and that'll be the ASMR Mike segment. Thank you so much for listening.